Welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast, where each episode brings you compelling conversations and stories designed to entertain, enlighten, and encourage. And now here's your host, Brian Sexton.
And welcome into the Intentional Encourager podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sexton. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have someone that I want to introduce you to that is absolutely one of the most fabulous people that I know. She is a dynamic leader, a speaker, a singer. My goodness, you ought to hear this lady sing. Maybe she'll belt one out for us in the middle of this podcast. You just never know on the Intentional Encourager podcast. But one of the dearest, sweetest people that I know, and she's got a book coming out. She's going to tell us about it. Her name is Shumon Hudson, and Shumon joins me on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Shumon, how are you? I am so excited to get you. All the people I could have had on this podcast, I am thrilled most that you're on it. How are you?
I am absolutely amazing, Brian. I cannot complain. Life is good, even during the times of the pandemic. And so we just take it a day at a time. So thank you so much for having me this evening. And thank you so much for the introduction. I do my best to live up to those things.
Well, you know, I got to have my tea close by. You've been around me in situations where this thing doesn't leave me my side. And, you know, it's right here next to me again.
Well, I understand because I'm on a quest to drink a gallon of water a day. So I'm on number 4 of these today. So this is on my side as well.
See, I can't keep up with you. I just can't keep up. In full disclosure, Shumon and I used to work together. Shumon was my team lead for a time at a company that we worked with, and I saw her lead dynamically. So that's where I want to start with you, Shumon, is in this time of uncertainty with COVID-19 and where we are with the pandemic and things like that, when you think about leaders that you've been around and you think about leading people, what comes immediately to mind about leading people right now in a pandemic? What's the number one thing that in your mind that leaders need to do well right now in this pandemic time?
I think not just in the pandemic time, but even more so now, just really respect and understand your associates as humans, right? So we all have a job to do. We're all hired to do a job. But before that, I'm a person, and my associates are people too. And I like to be able to understand and have that connection with them where they feel comfortable being able to bring anything to me and be able to talk to me about those things. And I'd be able to encourage them to keep going and keep pushing if there are things that they are kind of at a crossroads about. And then just kind of staying connected. That can be difficult during these times where we're all working virtually. I've led a virtual team for a number of years. And so just connecting outside of the regularly scheduled meetings, it's those one-off phone calls. Hey, how's it going today? Any questions you have for me? I was just thinking about you. Or for some people, you know, we have our regular call and we might walk. I know a team member who's interested in losing weight. And so my way to encourage that person is when we have our call, we walk. She walks her neighborhood, I walk my neighborhood. And we're taking care of 2 things at one time. So really just getting to know people, understand what their needs are, and being able to push and motivate them towards that.
Well, you've always been that way. You value connection. You have always been someone since I've known you that you really want to stay connected to people. When you think about connecting virtually and you think about, okay, this is what we're going to do. What's the one question you always want to ask somebody when you're connecting virtually with them?
My first question is, how are you really doing? We get the question a lot, how you doing? And we are tempted to say, I'm doing good, or I'm great. No, I want to know, I don't want the textbook answer. I want to know how you're really doing. How are you feeling? What's on your mind? Not just I'm good because I have a job. Yeah, that's great, but mentally, emotionally, physically, how are you truly doing? And when you can get to that depth of a connection with someone, then I think that you can soar to higher heights. that area of uncertainty, or that area of I don't know if she's going to think differently of me if I say these things.
Yeah.
Those things for me are out the door. I'm not a judgmental person to say, oh, if they tell me this, I'm going to think any differently. No, if you tell me this, I'm going to try to work with you to figure out how to get you over that.
But you're also, what I respect about you more than anything is that you're not afraid to tell people the truth. You're not afraid to tell somebody, hey, this is what I see and this is why I see it. And I want to bring this to your attention because I think so many times, Shumon, we're afraid to be truthful.
Mm-hmm.
We're afraid to be truthful with people and just really say, look, you're either not performing well, you're falling short in this area. It's not to tear them down, but you've always been a person that has been able to say what you mean and mean what you say to try to make people better. Was that something you had to learn to develop, or is that something you've always been able to do with people?
Oh, no, that was definitely a learned skill. I will say that I learned a lot through just working every day, but through, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, and it's mentioned in the book a little bit about how I went through some things in my life where I did not speak up. I was kind of shy, kind of reserved. And
you were shy. I've been around you when you have sang karaoke. You shy? Come on.
Yes, I went through that, that stage of life, and where I didn't say things for the sake of an argument, right? So even though I may have thought them, felt them, I would hold them in because I'm not an argumentative person. And it was a skill that I had to learn how to provide tangible feedback. If I tell you something, I want to tell you why I'm telling you, and what did I see that's allowing me to share this with you. But also, now that I've shown it or mentioned it to you, now I want to see you implement it, right? So I want to tell you what I saw, and then on the other side, I want to see you implement it next. And so that once you implement it, if there is some fine tuning that we can do, then let's continue to do that until you are at the point where you're happy with it. Because that's what's most important, right? Is that you're happy with it, and that you're able to take those things and continue to excel with that.
I remember one night, I thought I was a pretty good singer. I've always been able, I thought I was pretty good. And then I had to follow this lady singing. And I was like, Shumon, nothing really intimidates me. That intimidated me. I was like, I got to follow Shumon singing. I thought I was pretty good. She blows it out of the water. But that's just a part of your unique personality. I want to ask you this. What do you look for in leaders? Because most good leaders, most great leaders like yourself, you're not a good leader, you're a great leader. Most great leaders have something that inspires them, encourages them, motivates them. What do you look for in great leadership?
I will say that in my lifetime, I've had a handful of great leaders, and there are two from a previous organization that really shaped me into the leader that I am today. What I look for is one who is not afraid to be able to give that feedback, right? Because that's very important, and being able to provide tangible feedback. Someone who values a relationship and a connection with those that they work alongside, but also those who report to them. And one of the biggest things is that this person sees themselves as a part of the team and not above the team.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things for me. And if there is a time that I need to jump in and do the work, then I'm going to jump in and do the work. I'm not just a leader of the team. I'm actually a part of that team. And their success is my success, and my success is their success. And for me, that's important in a leader.
Something, the first time that my wife met you and you met my wife, I come home that night, and she looked at me and she said, you better stay there. You better not go anywhere, because the way you made her feel in that first time that you met her. My wife is not a person that is real you got to impress her a little bit. That she's not easily impressed by things. You did that for her because you just were yourself. You were real and you were genuine. You gave her a hug and she was like, oh yeah, I love that. I can still see that. I've not seen my wife smile like that in a good while. And you made her smile like that, Shumon.
She's a beautiful lady, Brian.
I know. How in the world she ended up with this? There is a God in heaven. I'm telling you, folks.
Yeah,
there is
she's
a God
sweetheart.
There's a God in heaven.
Yeah. Just, I like to, when I meet people, I'm giving you my genuine self every single time. And I don't want anyone to ever have to guess. Because I pride myself on being the same person. And every time you see me, every time you talk to me, through every interaction, so you don't ever have to guess, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. There's never a time that I'm going to play favorites, because I don't believe in that. I believe everybody has the potential to be great. So there's not a favorite. And so the way to do that is really just being your genuine self.
I want you, if you don't mind, to take us through your story, because I know parts of your story that you and I have shared personally. Your story is very powerful. You've overcome adversity. You have walked through some places. And again, one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on was to tell that story, because again, I think people are walking through places in this pandemic they've never walked through before. They're dealing with things. Some people have never lost a job and they've lost their jobs. Yeah. Some people have lost loved ones and they've never lost a loved one. You have had those times of adversity. So Shumon, the floor is yours. Take us as far back as you want to. Even if you say, hey, this is in the book, you're going to have to read about it. That's fine. I want you to sell as many books as you can sell,
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
And send one to me, and I'll put it on the bookshelf back here. I'm gonna buy one. I don't want you to say, I want to buy one. I'm gonna buy one, just long as you'll sign it.
You can count on it.
To Brian, whatever, Shumon.
I got you. I got you covered.
Take us through your story, as far back as you want to go.
Sure. So I will share that the title of this book is called Evolve: From Heartbreaks to Hearts Healed. And this is an anthology of what we call the First Wives Club. It's a group of ladies who meet on a regular basis, and we talk about how to be a great wife, right? And so many of us went through some things in order to get to the place where we consider ourselves to be not only a good wife, but hopefully a great wife. And there are, along with 8 other beautiful, amazing women who have come through a lot of different things. So in this book, you'll find women who have gone through heartbreak of variety. We talk about infertility, women who really wanted children and had struggled through infertility. A couple who dealt with some police brutality. She's a Black woman, he's a Hispanic man, couple. And he went through some police brutality. We talk about a couple who went through military challenges. They were both in the military and how they struggled through their marriage with that. Some talk about infidelity. And so there are a variety of different stories, domestic violence. I will say the title of my chapter, and it's chapter number 7, is called They Saved Me. And what that for me means is that my relationship with God, my love for my children, saved me from myself. I won't go into in-depth detail because I definitely want everyone to purchase.
You got to buy the book. You can't. You got it. If you want the steak, you can't just go. You got to get some sizzle to get the steak.
That's right.
And I know you like a good steak. You're like me. You love a good steak. So.
I love a good steak. I definitely do. But yeah, so it's my story is really about, and I'll give you just a snippet. I was married before. I am the mom of 3 amazing young men that I pretty much raised by myself until I met my now husband. And now we have 5 amazing young men between us. And so it just talks about during that time when I was in my first marriage where I felt alone, where it was just me and my children, and it talks about my attempted suicide. So I am grateful that I am still here today to be able to share this story with everyone, for those who purchased the book, and to be able to encourage someone else who may be going through that, that there is light on the other side, that there is elevation on the other side, there is growth on the other side, and you can definitely make it through. And just that one part when I was ready to take that breath, because I was in the tub and I heard God say, "You know me better than this," and that moment was a changing moment for me.
Shumon, that's the thing is that as I'm finishing my book, my book's about my dad. I lost my dad suddenly, and you and I have talked about that.
Yes.
You wonder at times if you have the emotional, I don't want to say strength, it's more the emotional acumen to be able to write it. And then you kind of question, I know for me, I kind of questioned, okay, am I really going to be able to tell this story? Did you ever think to yourself when you were doing this and you were writing your chapter, I don't know that I can tell this story because it's painful, it's raw, it's emotional. Did you go through those times?
I did. I had times where I literally cried through a couple of paragraphs, but it was healing for me to finally be able to put it on paper. Only a handful of people know that I went through that. And I'm sure there'll be many that are surprised once they read the book. And there were times where I literally had mental block that I know that certain situations, certain parts of the story, I literally blocked out of my mind to protect my heart. And so there were times where I struggled a little bit to remember all of the details. And there were times where I cried through pages. Yeah.
There are going to be people when my book comes out that are going to say, I can't believe you were lucid enough to even put words together in a sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
My title of my book was going to be How to Survive Being Brain Dead for 48 years. But I love they saved me, because you think about your family, and people during this time are with their families now more. I was having a conversation today with somebody, and I said, it's a wonder my wife hasn't killed me yet, because we're together all the time now, all the time. But for you, your children were literally, they pulled you out of that place. Do your boys now realize the impact that they made on you and how they pulled you out of it? Or are they going to, when they read this, they're going to say, Mom, we had no idea what we did?
When they read it, they're going to say, Mom, we had no idea. Yep. I've shared some details with them, but not to the depth that's in the book.
Do you feel like, and I want to go here for just a second, Shumon, because people would say, okay, you have a walk with God, you have a relationship with the Lord, you sing, and you and I both been involved in music ministries in our churches and things like that. People see what they see on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
But they have no idea what happens Monday through Saturday.
Oh, most definitely.
And so what I would say is,
sometimes Sunday after service, they don't know what goes on then. All they see is you ministering and God working through you.
Yep.
But you don't know, for some people, the struggle it took for them to get there. So the blessing is that they had enough strength to get there.
So here's my question. Were you surprised at yourself that you allowed yourself to get to that point? And was there ever a time that you were disappointed, that you thought, okay, God, how did I let myself get here to the point where the Lord had to speak to you? And the reason I'm asking you this question is that even spiritual people go through times where they question, should I really be here at all? I mean, I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we have all come to that road where we've said, the world would be a better place if I wasn't here. And I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
being very transparent, very honest with you. Were you disappointed in yourself that thought came to your mind of checking out?
Oh, yes. I was disappointed in myself. I was I felt like I let God down. Even with the divorce in my first marriage, it was hard for me to move forward with that because I take marriage and vows very seriously. And the fact that I wasn't able to make it work, I felt not only did I let myself down, but I also felt that I let God down. And that was a hard place to be. It took a while for me to reconcile with myself that I did not disappoint God in the decision that I made, because my actions in the entire situation was not what pushed us here.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to stay here for just a minute, because in my mind, I'm thinking that you're in that moment. You talk about being in the tub and you hear the voice of the Lord saying, you're really gonna do this. You're really gonna to go like this. Was there ever a thought of pushing that still small voice aside and going, oh, well, Lord, if you hadn't, if you had done this, if you had, because some people want to blame the Lord. And this is where I'm going here with this. It's the Mary and Martha attitude. Well, Lord, if you had just shown up 4 days ago, our brother would still be here. If you had only shown up 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't be thinking like this. So, where you at? You're telling me now, when I have got to literally my breaking point, now you show up. When you heard the voice of the Lord? And for some people, that's hard to imagine. They're like, well, yeah, God's way up there and he sits on this big throne. But for those that know the scripture, God does speak to men and women. God does. Was there ever a thought? What was that moment like for you when you heard the voice of the Lord speaking to you? Did it immediately get your attention, or were you to the point where you said, hey man, where you been? Where you been, God?
It immediately got my attention. But I can't say that after the fact, I didn't ask, where have you been? Right.
And I hope I asked that question correctly, because I can only imagine if I were in that position, because I've been in places I think, okay, God, you want to speak to my heart now, but where were you a week ago when I was crying out to you and begging you to take this situation from me? Where were you then? And that, Shumon, that's why I asked that question that way, because I think so many people, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to clarify there that there are people walking in situations that are asking questions like that every day, whether they're believers or not, going, well, if there's a God, why doesn't he show up for me? Well, if there's a God, how come we're in the midst of this pandemic? When you think about that moment in your life, was there a question that came to your mind when the Lord said, really, you're gonna do this? What was your immediate response? Did you repent, or were you saying, okay, God, you're talking to me now, but where you been?
I immediately sat up and said, God, forgive me. I really need you. Because my children were very small. Literally, my youngest son was only maybe 8 or 9 months old at the time. So it was, okay, God, I hear you. You caught my attention. I'm up. But I'm gonna need your help. Like, I can't do this on my own.
There ever? I'm sorry, Shumon. I did not mean to. Forgive me for interrupting you. Good grief! Like, I'm trying to speak here, Brian, and you interrupting me. I want I hear what you're saying there, and it's powerful. And I think you would have some people that say, well, maybe Shumon, you were just, your youngest was just born 8 or 9 months ago. You maybe had some postpartum depression that was hanging on. You know, people want to try to justify what you were feeling. But here's where I wanted to ask you this and pull a little more conversation out of that in that moment. Where did you go to when you said, okay, God, I can't do this by yourself? Where did you go to immediately to get the help to start getting you on the road to getting healed and getting better?
For me, I was always involved, in church. I, continued to stay in church, but I started learning how to, what I like to say, protect my peace, and removing people and things out of my life that would create more turmoil or not create a space of peace for me. And as I began to kind of chisel away at that and do those things, I began to see and think clear, more clear, and was able to then really at that time really begin to hear, the voice of God. And it was interesting because even through that time, like I said, I was still married at the time. And every day I would ask, well, God, if it's something I need to know, I need you to show me.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to tell me. And every morning, like clockwork, which was so surreal, that he would drop a scripture in my head, boom, like clockwork. And I would go to my Bible and I would read it. And slowly he began to reveal things that I needed to know in order to help me make a decision that would impact the lives of me and my children for the rest of our lives.
Wow. Wow. Because again, you don't understand until you've been in that place and
Mm-hmm.
you have walked that road, what it's like to walk that road. I was telling somebody a couple of weeks ago, I said, look, you ever go barefooted around your house? And yeah. Why do you do that? Well, I know the terrain. I know it's comfortable. I said, okay, you're going to take a walk outside if all of the surrounding areas outside your house was broken glass? Well, heavens no. But in life, sometimes that's what we face is like, oh my word, everything around me is broken glass. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
cut. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. When people read your chapter, what's the main thing? What's the main anthem that you want them to leave knowing when they read your chapter in your book, in the book?
I want people to know and understand that we all go through things in life, and that we have the potential to work through those things. And for me, the key word through in all of that is the word through. Through means that I started on this side, but I ended on this side, and what's in the middle didn't break me. And so that's what I really want people to know and to see, is that yes, we go through things in life, but you have the potential to take that, be able to grow and move and create the best life for yourself in a space of happiness, in a space of peace, in a space where you can be, lender, not borrower, in a space where you can be, the motivator, the encourager,
Mm-hmm.
the space where, people really want to be in your presence because of the aura that you present. That is the potential for anyone, for any single mom that may be going through some things. You can do it. You can make it. The journey may not be easy, and most times it definitely won't be pretty. But just know that, if you give your all to your children, give your all to yourself, that you can accomplish, all the things that you have set for yourself, and you can be who God has created you to be.
When you were going through that time, and I've got to stay here, I can't I can't leave it because I've got to stay here for just a second. You sing. I mean, I'm telling you folks, this lady can, as we say, she can sing. She can sing. I mean, I'm telling you, when you're going through something like that, were you singing or were you listening to songs? Because a lot of people, and I've sang, Shumon, I've sang since I was 3 years old. I'm 48 now. That's hard to believe. I mean, I know I've covered it up well through this. Hey, when you look like this from the neck up, you got to overcompensate, you know. But I say that because I'll catch myself. That's something my dad did. My dad would go around the house and he would sing like a little line of a song or something like it. And I find myself doing that sometimes. I'm like, well, I'll just, it's habit. You do it. But there are times you don't really feel like singing. There are times I've gotten up to sing. I'm like, I really don't want to be here today. I do not. I have played the keyboard in my church. I'm like, I would rather be anywhere else than doing what I'm doing right now. I know you love to sing. For you, though, were you still singing or were you listening to things that helped you? Because there are times you sit back and listen. What was that like for you in that time that you were going through it until you came out of it and got healed?
It was some of both. There were definitely songs that I would listen to that would encourage me, that would speak to my spirit, and there would be a line out of the entire song, that would just resonate, and you find yourself singing that line. You may not know anything else in the entire song, but that one line resonates, and then that's what you use in that moment to encourage yourself, to maybe push yourself. For me, singing is a place of peace. It's a place where I pour out my emotions in a song. And so it's in some ways it's therapy, and so I did a little bit of both during that time.
Now that your boys are grown, you're in a different place now from where you were in the book. How different is it for you having adult kids? You mentioned your sons are off to college. I know one of your boys is playing college football. I think one of them is playing college football.
Yes.
How is this season different for you than other seasons of your life?
Watching them grow from boys to men.
I thought you were going to cry there for a minute. I was going to tell you, don't cry. Don't cry. Don't you cry on me, Shumon Hudson. Don't you cry on me, girl.
No, watching them grow from boys to men and seeing what you have instilled in them be revealed, to see them make decisions that can affect their lives and make good decisions, being able to have those different types of conversations with them, because the conversations change, right, when they get to a certain age. And I enjoy these conversations because I get to see how their mind is really thinking now that they're hitting the adult world. And I get to ask different questions just to see how they respond. I will say that I took and I still take being a mom like super serious. Like that, they're one of the best gifts God could have ever given me. I will have their back until the day God calls them home, or if he calls me home first. I will continue to support them and pour into them everything that I have in order for them to be great, upstanding citizens. I'm super proud of them and where they are in life right now. And, it's that kind of leads to, like I said, my book, Winter of 2021. It's called Raising Kings. And it'll be about some of the things I learned and be able to share about raising boys.
And I love what you posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, and you were talking about it. And I've always felt like in raising a son that it should, and I was talking to a guy in our church, one of our ministers in our church, and I said, to me, I feel a responsibility as a dad of a son to raise a good enough man that you feel absolutely confident walking your daughter down the aisle to take his hand in marriage. That whoever it is, and it may not be his daughter per se, but any man's daughter, the most precious thing that he has to him, his little girl, that I have done a good enough job as a father that when he walks her down the aisle, he has zero issues, one, and two, he's totally confident that my son is a quality addition to his family.
Right.
That's the way I feel. As a mom, different dynamic. For you, what's the most important thing in your three boys in raising them the right way and raising them properly?
I think it's the same thing, Brian, whether it's mom or dad, that you give them the skills to be successful. And, and when they choose to take that next step to be a husband, that they have those skills to be successful in that, as well as to be, a successful parent if they choose that route as well. That, I remember the post because I saw your comment behind it, and I loved it. And the comment really just talks about, I was asking, we always talk about our young women, and rightfully so, know your worth. Make sure this gentleman, is at a certain place in life and those types of things. Well, why aren't we saying these same things to our boys? And are we saying these same things to our boys? We should be. We should be telling them the same thing, to know their worth, to, the young lady that they choose to be with, test her challenge her creativity. What is she also bringing to the table? It's not just all about the man taking care of the woman, it's a partnership. And I think that a lot of times, a lot of our young girls are taught, the man is supposed to take care of you. Yes, he is. But at the end of the day, if we plan to go from this place to this place, this is a partnership, and we have to do these things together, and we should be telling and instilling in our young men some of these same things that we're selling in our young women, and they should not be left out of that.
Well, Shumon, here's the thing, and I want to go here for just a quick minute because you've hit on something really good, is that we have trivialized young ladies to some degree because, we joke and say, well, that's my baby mama. That's, and no, that's your helpmate. That's your soulmate. God didn't take the woman from the man's foot. He took him from the rib, the closest thing to the heart. Mm-hmm. I mean, my wife is not just my baby mama. She is my partner in life, my soulmate. If God forbid something happens to her, good grief, I don't know what I would do. Mm-hmm. But I love what you said there about understanding the worth of who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, mm-hmm. and understanding that, listen, you better not be acting a fool. You better treat that woman respectfully. When you talk to your boys today and you say, hey, if you don't remember anything else I've told you, never forget this. What is the one thing that your boys that, and heaven forbid, Shumon, if you should leave this earth tomorrow, we were talking about that just a minute ago. Mm-hmm. What's the one thing that you're going to tell your boys, never forget what mom told you?
It's okay to be good, but expect to be great. That's the mantra in our household.
Man, oh man. I got to ask you one more question. You've been so good with I've enjoyed this so much. Leave the audience with your biggest piece of intentional encouragement, whether it's been a life verse or whether it's something that you're working on now or practicing now. What's your single biggest piece of intentional encouragement?
Oh, that's a good question, Brian.
Are you surprised that I asked it? You're flabbergasted. Like, I don't know what to do here right now. You just asked a good question.
I would say really, and it's going to sound so simple, but it's just keep going. And when I said a moment ago, you know, it's okay to be good, but expect to be great. While many of us are okay being good, the people who want to be great, they're working while we're sleeping. They're working while we're doing other things because their goal is to get to that place of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that came from. All of my boys play sports, and they're student athletes. And I share with them, look, if you want to be great, there's some work you have to do to get there. So yeah, someone can say, Shamar, you're good. But you'd rather hear, Shamar is great. And know that while you're on that quest to being great, there will be some times of some bumps in the road, sometimes where you may feel like, I'm never going to get there. But if God has created in you to be great, which he has,
Mm-hmm.
then the potential is there. You just can't stop reaching for it.
Shumon Hudson, tell people where they can find and connect with you on social media, because when you hear this conversation, you're going to want to connect with her. Tell folks where they can get the book. Just take it. You do it. Do your thing.
So I'm actually working on my website. It'll be up by the weekend. It's Hudson, the number 6, enterprise.com. And you will be able to there join my readers list. You will be able to pre-order the book. And those pre-orders will be starting in the next couple of weeks, and the books will be in hand around mid-October timeframe. And you will also there be able to book a consultation if you need my vocal skills. So it's all there in one place.
You're going to want to do that. Yeah, you definitely going to want to do that.
To find some of that information. So I would definitely appreciate your support and even appreciate even more your feedback after you read the book. We'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
Well, let me tell you folks something, and I'm going to end it this way. If you saw in the video part of it, we'll have it up on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, the Intentional Encourager Podcast. If you're seeing in my demeanor the deep love and respect that I have for this lady, it's genuine. She is one of the greatest people that I have ever met, and it's my honor to know her. And Shumon, I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart that you would take your time to come on my podcast. You're probably stunned that I would, like, I can't believe it. He's intelligent enough to have a podcast.
Oh, no. Never thought that. Brian, I think you're absolutely great.
Oh, the feeling is mutual.
Some good times and some great conversations. So
the feeling is mutual. I am indebted to you deeply. Shumon, thank you for coming on the Intentional Encourager Podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'll leave you with this. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
I would stand up, but I'll knock everything down.
We hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, yet proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thanks, Brian, for having me.
I had to jump in there and sing with you. I was like, let her go. I was like, no, I was like, no, when do you get a chance to do a duet with Beyonce? That's the thing. You're better than Beyonce. You're better than Beyonce. That's my opinion. You're better than Beyonce. Because I was just going to sit there. I was going to go, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Let her go. And I was like, no. When do you get a chance to sing with Shumon? He's like, all right, I'm just going to do it.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Well, it was great because of you, not anything. People are going to listen to that and they're going to go, why in the world did you jump in there and interrupt her? She was doing. Of
course not. You were 100% on key and on pitch. It was great.
Well, say, Shumon Hudson, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Thank you
so much for.
My thanks as always to producer Bryce Sexton and technical advisor Matt Means. And the ultimate thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, who provides intentional encouragement every day through His Word. And until next time, remember, everyone, everywhere, at any time, and any place, can be an intentional